Hello, everyone. Welcome to Snap Take. I'm Glazer of the Snap Judgments podcast, and we got a new look. We got some new sound. Hopefully, you can hear me better. Hopefully, this looks better. Let me know how you feel about it in the comments. It is High Evolutionary release. He is finally out. As High Evolutionary was coming out, I released a sample of this deck on Tuesday. This was my rough draft deck. Some changes turned out to need to be made. Let's take a quick look at them, and then I'm going to show you where we ended up with a all but guaranteed new top tier deck. We're going to look at another top tier deck, both created by our friend Safety Blade, who's on the Snap Judgments podcast that should have released this very morning. Check your podcast catcher. It'll be on YouTube later on. It's also VOD over on his Twitch. You can check that out. We've got two brand new tier 1. These decks, I played them all day. I kept playing other things and going back to these decks because they were so OP. This is my original version. We're going to come back to it in 1 second. I'm going to explain to you what went wrong with it, what went right with it. I still think this deck is really strong. There's a few changes to make, and we will go from there. But before we go any further, we still have our giveaway going. Don't forget it. You have to subscribe to the YouTube. Follow, like, and sub the tweet in the description. Reply with any content creator you'd like to see in our podcast. You can suggest KM Best, J-Hug, Savagetti, Bootman, etc., but they've already been on. But suggest someone you'd like to see on. Once you do those 3 things, you're entered to win one of 5 season passes. In addition to those 5 season passes, you can win a grand prize of a season pass with every Token Tuesday for the month of June. It's a great deal. All you have to do is subscribe. You get great content that helps you stay ahead of the Marvel Snap meta. As a small creator, when we promote really strong decks, they don't take the meta by storm, which gives you a way to raise that cube rate. Okay, before we go back to our boy High Evolutionary, you need this other top tier list. The first thing I started making that I really loved in this game was Thanos decks. I hit Infinite with Thanos 2 different times. This is the best Thanos deck in the meta right now. I've been playing and climbing with the Lambie. I've been really great with the Lambie deck. Telling you right now, this deck is better. It's especially better into the High Evolutionary meta because all those negatives get eaten. The basic gist of the deck is you've got a bunch of stones to get through your destroy cards. You can destroy anything you want, getting a bunch of power with cards like Venom, Wolverine, Bucky, and Carnage. You can kill a lot at once with Carnage, Venom, and I mean with everything. Deathlock, etc. Yondu kills something. As you're killing everything, you are developing a really strong board. You're killing 1 power stones to develop this insanely strong board. Carnage is regularly a 6 power, 8 power card. Bucky's a 6 power card. Killmonger, assuming he gets anything of theirs, is fundamentally a 5, 7, 12 power card. Venom is whatever he eats plus, and then Deathlock is a 3, 5, which is just a great rate. In an ideal world, on turn 5, you are waving and deathing. When Safety Blade made this version of the deck, he fundamentally looked at what I was trying to do with the other deck, with the High Evolutionary deck, with Wave and Abomination, and said, well, death should work the same way. Turns out she does. This being a Thanos deck, you're not going to see that combo as often as you would like, but it's perfectly fine if you have a Wolverine, a Bucky down, etc., to wave and drop a Carnage, to wave and drop Wolverine. This is a perfectly fine power play. Everyone right now is playing these greedy decks. It wins the game. You think they're going to Sarah? This wins. You think they're going to play, they're playing a Kitty deck? This wins. And against the stuff that's trying to do double greedy High Evolutionary stuff, Wave shuts it down. Only thing this is weak to is magic. I've seen just a touch of magic in the meta, but this should stomp everything else. Even if they do magic you, you should still be fine because you've got Death and Null to play. A very, very cheap Death is extremely, extremely valuable for obvious reasons. You can play Death, you want to play Death, obviously, before you wave because she's so cheap. But a really cheap death is excellent. You can often get death out on like turn 4. It's really, really powerful. And Null in the meantime is just an absolute ton of power. Yondu is one of the best ways to get power on Null, but don't be afraid to on turn 3 or 4 if you've got like a Winter Soldier out of your Bucky and like a 6 power Carnage, just eat that with Venom. Make yourself a 12 power Null if you've got Null in hand, right? Or if you've got a lot of stones to draw with. You add in the consistency that America Chavez adds, and that Thanos is just a nice big body. America Chavez is a nice big body. You're never playing really from behind. This deck is crazy strong. It is one of the best decks right now in this game. I sent it to my little spot on the Discord earlier, and everyone was like, whoa. Safety sent it to a couple of his people, and they're winning 65-70% of their games. This is a T1 deck. Get ready for this Thanos death meta in a completely new way. All right, now for what you're actually here for. I'm sorry. I know you wanted to talk about the High Evolutionary, but like we discovered a new tier 1 deck and you can climb with it and it's strong against the rest of the meta. So you need to know this exists. This deck, here's what went wrong. The first thing that went wrong is Scorpion is bad. Scorpion is not actually good in High Evolutionary decks, at least with the current meta. There might be some meta later down the line where he is, but we're not there right now. Iron Lad is fine, but 2 bad hits is obnoxious. You're often getting Wave on turns you don't want to. You're often getting Rogue that does nothing. Scorpion does nothing, and Abomination does fundamentally nothing. So that's not really enough good hits for the Lad. The last main problem is a lot of people, you really want to hit Luke Cage with Rogue, but they often have multiple ongoings in that lane. Rogue is therefore a huge problem, not ideal as a play line. So removing those and then removing Leader, because it turns out we didn't realize this as we were making this, or I didn't realize this. Hulk is one of the best High Evolutionary cards. We come to what Safety Blade evolved from my original deck. Throughout testing in the day, both Misty and Sunspot are in the original version of this, not Zabu. But with Enchantress and Thing and the occasional play of Evolutionary, I think Zabu is worth it. In addition, if you've got a Zabu, Cyclops, Thing, now your Thing is leaving energy left over to power your Hulk and Cyclops and Misty Knight. Sunspot occasionally gets reasonably big in this deck. However, Misty giving 1 power at random I found has more value because her initial base of 2 just means that she's got such a head start on. Wasp is incredibly powerful. You're still trying to on turn 5 do the Wave Abomination play. It still works extraordinarily well. Don't be afraid to Wave and Luke Cage on 5. That is also an excellent turn to Luke Cage because that leaves your opponent with the choice of making Enchantress their only last turn play to get rid of your Luke Cage, or playing something big. If they Enchantress Luke Cage and you Hulk, you usually win. Against other Evolutionary decks, I found Hulk is often the best play, but against the rest of the meta, Doom is often the right play. This deck badly wants America Chavez. I cannot figure out the actual spot for her, but seeing Wave by 5 and Zabu early and Luke Cage, so you know you have him, and Enchantress, so you can annoy opponents who are trying to do similar things, are all incredibly important features to the deck. So America would be great here, despite it giving you a higher chance of seeing Evolutionary, who is the only actively bad draw in. So you're in your ideal world, you're playing Wasp, then you're playing Zabu, then you're playing either Cyclops or the Thing into the other one, whichever one you didn't play, with Wasp. At that point, you should be able to Wave an Abomination or Wave in Luke Cage. Then you play Doom or Hulk as the game demands. It's an extremely straightforward play line. This deck has been, thus far, incredibly powerful. With both of these decks, it feels like I'm like just kind of cruising in Infinite. I was at 108 to start the day because I played a little bit of our friend Matrim's Jank. And I ended up climbing to 110, 112, I think, actually, with the Death deck, the Thanos Death deck. Then I played Evolutionary. Then I played some weaker Evolutionaries, fell down to 108 again, and then I climbed back up to 112 with the High Evolutionary deck. Last thing, if you'd like to see some gameplay for this Thanos death deck, our friend Father Newman, who I will link in the description, will have a gameplay video of this deck up relatively soon. So make sure you check him out and do us a favor, sub. This is an amazingly kind and generous person who has done nothing but be helpful and wonderful in this community. And he makes great content and, as always, warms my heart. He's a teacher just like me. Gotta check him out. All right. We got 2 T1 decks. Day 1 of this new meta. Check them out. This Thanos Death deck, if you didn't buy High Evolutionary or you just really like these cards, is incredible. I'm aware that with Null it's a little expensive, and Null is a requirement, unfortunately, but this deck is phenomenal. And then this deck of High Evolutionary is the best build I have found. There's builds that go taller, but they can't get around wave. So you should almost always have the advantage, depending obviously on draw, variance, and location, and so on. But you've got a really good shot against absolutely everything in this deck. All right, that's today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you tomorrow for another Snap Take. Let us know what you think about the new look down in the comments. Peace, friends.